It began with an excavation, a routine dig that promised nothing more than pottery shards and forgotten history. But deep beneath the desert, where the sun's heat could no longer reach, they found it. A massive stone gate, buried and sealed by millennia of silence. It was a doorway guarded not by locks, but by time itself, waiting for the curious and the foolish. The air grew still, the usual desert winds hushed, as if the very sands held their breath. This wasn't just another find. It was a frontier, a line between the known world and a darkness left intentionally undisturbed. The team, driven by the thrill of discovery, had no idea they were standing at the threshold of a legend that was never meant to be reawakened. Upon the cold, unyielding stone were words from a language lost to the ages. Intricate carvings spiraled across the gate, depicting scenes of chaos and despair. Winged lions with scorpion tails tore through armies, and human faces, twisted in eternal agony, cried silent screams. The flickering torchlight seemed to make the figures dance, their torment momentarily alive in the shadows. Amidst the incomprehensible script, one symbol stood out, a mark recognized from the darkest corners of forgotten lore. It was a symbol they had seen only in forbidden texts, a sigil of hunger and destruction. It was the mark of the Devourer. A chilling realization dawned on the lead archaeologist. This wasn't a king's tomb, it was a prison. With a groan of ancient stone, the gate gave way, revealing a dark, cavernous chamber beneath. The air that rushed out was stale, thick with the scent of dust and something metallic, something old. As their lights cut through the oppressive darkness, they saw it. A grand altar at the center of the room, its surface drenched in a deep crimson dust. It was the petrified remains of countless offerings. All around, scattered in the shadows, were the skeletal remains of those who had served this forgotten god. This was no place of worship. It was a place of sacrifice. A celestial butcher's block where a malevolent entity once fed on the lifeblood of mortals. The silence in this chamber was heavier, filled with the echoes of ancient screams. Resting on a stone lectern near the altar, miraculously preserved, was a scroll. Its parchment was so brittle that it seemed to hold its form by sheer will alone. As the lead historian gently tried to unfurl it, the ancient Persian letters upon it began to glow with a faint, ethereal light before crumbling to dust. But for a fleeting moment, the message was clear. The scroll spoke of resurrection, of a cycle of slumber and awakening. It detailed a horrifying prophecy. The devourer would sleep as long as its prison remained sealed. But it would rise again when the blood of the curious, the outsiders, touched the soil of the cursed. A drop of sweat, or perhaps a small cut from a jagged rock, was all it would take. Just as the last glowing letter faded into nothing, the ground began to tremble. It started as a subtle vibration, the kind you might dismiss as a distant tremor, but it quickly escalated. The very foundations of the desert shuddered violently, and a low, guttural roar echoed from deep within the earth, a sound that vibrated not just in their ears, but in their bones. Outside, the calm desert night was shattered. Sand began to whirl into the air, not by wind, but as if being pulled by an unseen force. Something ancient, vast, and furious had been disturbed. Something beneath the sands began to move. The prophecy was being fulfilled. The desert came alive that night. It was no longer a barren, lifeless landscape. It was a living entity, breathing, raging, and remembering its ancient master. A massive sandstorm materialized out of nowhere, a swirling vortex of unimaginable power that dwarfed the excavation site. The wind howled like a vengeful spirit, tearing at their tents, flipping heavy vehicles as if they were children's toys. The storm wasn't just sand and wind. It was filled with an unnatural light, flashes of crimson and gold that pulsed from its core. The world was reduced to a terrifying chaos of roaring wind and blinding sand, consuming everything in its path. The desert itself had become the monster's herald. Through the chaotic whirlwind of dust and debris, a single point of light appeared. It grew brighter, steadier, resolving into a shape that defied all reason. An eye. One glowing eye opened from beneath the earth, molten red and vast. filled with an insatiable, eons-old hunger. It was an eye that had witnessed the birth of stars and the fall of empires. It held no intelligence in the human sense, only a pure, primal need to consume, to devour, to end. The legends called it the Eye of the Manticore, the Devourer of Light, and after thousands of years of darkness, it had opened once more, gazing upon a world that had forgotten to fear it. The full form began to emerge from the sand. No science, no faith, no human language could adequately name what they saw. It was a silhouette of nightmares, a monstrous fusion of lion, scorpion, and man, tearing through the storm with a deafening roar. The legend had returned, not as a myth etched in stone, but as a physical, terrifying judgment upon those who had disturbed its slumber. Shadows cast by the beast seemed to have a life of their own, darting out and extinguishing their torches, plunging the frantic survivors into an even deeper, more primal darkness. It was the embodiment of chaos, and its hunt had just begun. Amid the panic, one camera, left recording on a tripod, captured the final moments. The image flickered, distorted by the storm's energy, the screen filled with static. For a brief, horrifying instant, the lens caught a clear image against the moonlit chaos, the silhouette of monstrous leathery wings spreading wide, blotting out the sky. Then, a final blood-curdling roar, a flash of crimson light, and the feed went black. The last thing they captured, the last evidence of their existence, was a shadow claiming the night, a final testament to the beast that had risen from its tomb. Now, the desert sleeps once more. The storm has passed, and the dunes lie silent and still under the pale moonlight, as if nothing ever happened. The excavation site is gone, swallowed by the sands, along with all who were there. But if you listen closely, if you press your ear to the ground, you can feel it. A faint tremor, a slow, rhythmic pulse from deep beneath the surface. The silence is a lie. The whisper remains on the wind, a warning to all who would dare to dig too deep. The Manticore is not gone. It merely breathes, waiting beneath the eternal sands. Thank you for joining me on this journey into darkness. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more tales from the edge of reality. Stay safe and stay curious.